Good evening, everybody. It's Wednesday. It's 6:30, and you know what that means? It's time for another science chat. Science meaning knowledge. I recently attended a webinar, and we're talking about what science means. And what is our definition of science. So let's go with science being knowledge. My name is Nzi Saki, for those who do not know me, and today we are talking to the founder and host of the Root of Science podcast, Anne Chisa. So I'm going to bring her on and I'm going to get this conversation started. And good evening.
Hi,
How are
hi.
you?
Good, thanks. How are you?
I'm great, thank you. Thank you so much for agreeing to do this. I've been meaning to chat to you for the longest of times because I've been watching you, and I mean the platform that you have is absolutely amazing. You're doing such incredible work.
Oh, thank you so much. It's an honor to also be here. I've also been watching the fantastic series that you've been conducting these past couple of months. So I'm really glad to be part of the people to join you on one of these live sessions.
Oh yeah. No, you know what? I would want to get right into it because I know that time flies really quickly. People will just join us as we go along. I guess that makes the most sense instead of us waiting for everybody to join and then start.
Yeah.
Are you cool with that?
No, let's go. Let's go.
Right. So, firstly, who is Anne Chisa? Let's get to know you a little bit.
All right. Well, first of all, can I just say it's so odd being on the side of the answering part, but I'm going to try my best to be the interviewee. Yeah, who's Anne? Anne is a 26-year-old um, scientist. Currently, I'm doing my PhD in crop science at the University of KwaZulu-Natal. Apart from that, Anne is also a person who loves to cook, who loves talking, who loves music, and who just loves people in general. So, yeah, I think in short and brief, that's Anne.
Mhm. And your career journey, what are you currently doing your research in and how did you end up there?
Oh, okay. Currently my PhD is in crop science. So the actual project is not a typical crop as such. It's more on trees. So the whole idea is using waste streams. So waste streams being your organic waste, which is your, let's say your vegetables, your fruits, and then also your urine, your feces, poo, etc, and then you're able to convert those into you're able to convert those into fertilizers, and then the food that we actually eat has actually got nutrients which are essential for plant growth. So we once you using sustainable sanitation technologies, we're able to convert that into fertilizers, which can then be used to grow agriculture crops. So a lot of research has been conducted with agricultural crops. So now the idea is to see if we can use the same idea to now grow trees, because we've seen how a lot of deforestation is occurring, and it affects climate change, etc. So now we're just trying to see if we can now use the same principle for crops, to grow trees. And another thing is that with trees it takes away the eek element, if I can say that, because you're not really eating let's say your spinach, because people are like, oh no, that's gross. But if you grow a tree, you are eating, let's say, the fruit, or you're able to make timber from it. So that's also another idea, that we are taking that little growth element that people might like not want to do. How did I get there? Oh wow. So last year, that's such a long journey. Last year, was it last year? 2020, yeah. It feels like such a long time that we've been living that it's hard to tell which year, which year we in. Yeah, so in 2020, I'd recently completed my master's degree. So for my master's, I was working on a legume called pigeon pea, So now I had the most fantastic co-supervisor. He's now my main supervisor. And I was sort of like in that space of like, I don't know what's next. Should I get a job? And then also this is when the pandemic hit and nobody was really sure if they're hiring or not. And I was like, do I really want to continue going further with this PhD? But I think in the back of my mind, actually, I know in the back of my mind, the PhD has always been there. So then my supervisor was like, there is a project, you should apply for the scholarship. And yeah, the rest is history. That's how I'm here.
Yeah, I feel like as you're answering the questions, in my mind, I'm like, we are now finding out the roots of your science because that's what you keep asking everybody
Exactly. Exactly.
before we get into, your work. It's really
Yeah.
interesting to find out. One last question before we get into the main gist of things. Have you
Mhm.
always wanted to be a scientist?
No. And I'll always be
Mm.
truthful about that. And I think it also goes to show, well, later on, why I started to do what I do. So I initially wanted to be a lawyer because I used to watch a lot of like Boston Legal, and there used to be this thing called, obviously, Suits. Everybody knows that, but there was all these like lawyers looked, yeah, um, lawyers looked really really cool. I mean, I deviated from the whole medical thing because that wasn't for me. I was like, blood, no. As much as I loved the Grey's Anatomy, but yeah, TV made it really cool to be a lawyer and to look smart and you well spoken and you're poised. So I was like, oh, that's really cool. But I didn't like when I was taking my subjects and at school, like being a African child, your parents always say take the science subjects. So I
Mm.
couldn't take the non other path because I think if I wanted to be a lawyer, I would have had. I really wanted to take history. Really
Oh
loved
yeah.
history and the essay writing, but then it didn't fall in that block because you had to take like all the science subjects are like in one block and then the other
Oh,
subjects are in another block. Yeah, so
I
it
know
clashed.
those
Yeah,
schools. You have to take these.
yeah, so it clashed. And then I was like, okay, fine, let's do the science thing. And then you pass matric, and then okay, fine, let's take a science degree because that's what you know. And also, I had one of my dad's friends. He was in agriculture engineering, and he's like, oh no, there's a lot of career prospects in agriculture, So sort of that's how it just sort of I always tell people like it just happened. I'm here, but yeah, I think it just goes to show that for me, the visibility, I didn't have like visible role models for me to aspire to be a scientist. Like all I saw was, I don't know, when I thought scientist, I just thought you guys are in the labs and it's an old white man. So why do I want to be that person? I know other people have got really,
Mhm.
but for me, that was not it. And I think that's okay. But I'm happy. I'm happy where I am. I won't lie. So yeah.
Yeah, I can see that you're happy, and thanks to your parents, in a way, for forcing you into it, but also thanks to you for continuing in it. Because I mean, after the science degree, you could have decided to go a different path and be like, you know what, this ain't for me. Like, I'm going another path, but she's staying in it, and obviously
Yeah.
staying in it, you found yourself starting a podcast.
Yeah.
Let's think about that.
All right. So with that, oh, okay. I also forgot to mention that there was a part of me that wanted to go into like radio. Like I really have a thing about like how there used to be this one DJ who I really liked, Brown Sugar. I loved her voice and like how she sounded. And I was like, oh, that is so cool. But then like I was like, oh, but you can't be in media and do science. So it just felt like I could not do that. So I sort of just like brushed that off. Anyway, so how did the podcast actually start? So first things first, 2020, again, this is where a lot of these things happened. Or was it 2019? Yeah, I joined Twitter, academic Twitter, as everybody says, the best place to be if you want to network.
Mhm.
So I started following Natasha Mwanigwa, who is the founder of Visibility STEM. So at that point, she had this idea of creating a platform of Africans in STEM. So because I'm me. I was like, oh my God, this is so cool. Like, can I join? Um, how can I be a part of it? How can I help? She was like, oh, okay, cool. So we joined, and I was part of the team of visibility, the inception. And then after that, what happened? Oh, then I was also in that stage of where I had just submitted my master's. And I was like, okay, I've taken a lot of time, I've done this degree, but there's a little bit of a disconnect. Like, after I've done this research, and then what? Like, okay, I publish, but then what? Like, the people at that point, I was really working with a lot of smallholder farmers, and I was like, I'm going to publish this work, but the people who I've been working with are not able to actually access this work. And the way that we are writing this work is in a manner with a lot of jargon that they won't even really understand. Because what does randomized block design, treatment structure, what does that mean to a farmer? It means absolutely nothing. Yeah, so I was like, okay, we need to do something like in a way that I was like, surely there has to be a way for us to like communicate like this better. So then there was a friend of mine, shout out to Sharon. I was just like hanging around her. She was doing her PhD, and I was like, oh, this is so cool, Sharon. Let's have a chat, we can talk about it. Oh no, okay, before that I was like, oh, let me do a blog, let me write. Then I was like, oh gosh, writing's a lot of effort, a lot of editing, no, I'm not gonna do that. So I was like, surely let me try just speaking. Surely that can't be too hard. So then I tried to interview her, and we had that's like my first episode, where I interviewed her, and we were talking. Yeah, we were talking in one of the lecture rooms on campus, and I just pressed record on my phone, and I was like, oh, tell me about your research. And then we uploaded it, and then like I was like, okay, cool, this sounds easy, this is what I want to do. And then similarly, a lot of things were working at the same time. Natasha was like, there are people who she's getting in contact with who are reaching out to Visibility STEM, and she's like, Anne, I think you should start talking to these people. So I was like, okay, cool, let me start talking to them. Then I sent people emails, and I was like, hi, I'm doing this thing, would you like to be interviewed? Like very like DMing them, and they're like, yeah, sure. So it really just worked out well, because we were going into the pandemic, everybody was at home, people didn't have a lot of things to do, and yeah, so that's how we started. I just started reaching out to various people who I admired, who I looked up to, and then they referred me to so and so, and then we just started this sort of catalytic effect of me chatting to these very amazing scientists. And yeah, that's the inception of it.
And obviously, since I'm assuming because of your link to Visibility STEM, that is why you've kept it to Africa and scientists in Africa, or do you also go out and interview African scientists in the rest of the world as well?
No, the whole idea is, you, as long as you identify as African, and I love the fact that I even interview people who are abroad, because it shows a person who is in Africa that you're not limited to where you are. You can be from Zambia and you can land up in Germany, then you can land up in Switzerland, or you can be in Russia. So it was creating those visible role models that you are an African, but you are brilliant, but also at the same time celebrating Africans who are in Africa, of course, but just showcasing. Because like I said to you, that I never had people who looked like me, who sounded like me doing science. So that's the platform that I want to create. So wherever you are, it's even better, because a kid who is in, I don't know, in a village somewhere and is listening to this podcast can be inspired that this person is able to do their masters, or their undergrad in the UK, then go to Australia, then go to Germany. Like, that is possible, and that can be done through doing science. Like, what? Like, for me, that's the thing that really blew my mind away. And apart from that, I think the most important part is to showcase the diversity of STEM. Because STEM is not just an engineer, it's not just a doctor. It's, there are people who are doing like stuff to do with gut. There are people who are doing some crazy research in cancer. There are people who are doing a lot of work in AI, and they're Africans, and they're based everywhere in the world. So that's literally what I do. That's literally what I want to showcase, and also just showcase to the world that, hey, look at what Africa is doing, be it males and females, like look at us, like just look, scroll through, you'll see so and so as a postdoc, so and so as a BSc, you know. And that's how part of the other questions that I have is where you from, where you based, so that it can also just showcase that like you are not where you are here. So yeah, and yeah, just also just communicating the science in a manner that anybody can understand without, of course, making it so like I don't want to say diluted, because that's not something that you do, but you want to communicate in a manner that everybody can understand. And I'm sure we've seen the importance of that with this pandemic, that science needs to be communicated to the general public in a manner that they can understand. And yeah, that's why I do the SciComm that I do.
No, that's absolutely beautiful. And I also think what's very important about the work that you're doing is that I worked for some time in the recruitment space where I was recruiting students to come and study science at the institution that I worked at. And at the time, the question I always got was, but what am I going to do with science?
Yeah,
What job am I gonna go into, and how much money do they actually make? Because I mean, these are important questions. I mean, and these are important questions, especially for the Black child. Because
yes.
in most cases, they're the first ones to go into university, and it's important that they go in and study something that they'll get a job immediately once they're done, so that they can support the family and whatever else is on their shoulders. So it was a very fair question for them to ask me, so what am I going to do with it? Where am I going to go?
Yeah.
And what you are doing is showcasing that, listen, these are the different options within science, and it's not just this, it's not just the lab. There's more to this. You can travel with this, you can start your own company with this, you can do all of these different things. And that is, I think, a very important message for young ones, especially to know if they're considering science, because it is a tricky business, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. And also, just to add that the beauty of it is that I'm also interviewing a lot of what I'd like to call the new age scientists, young people who are not only just doing science. Because I truly believe that in the past you had this narrow road of where what you had to do. You get your science degree. If you're doing a post grad, you get your master's, you get your PhD, then you become a lecturer, and then you become a professor, and that's all, or postdoc. But right now, chatting with these people, which the people who have had the opportunity to chat to, I've realized you can be a founder, you can be your own CEO, you can be a director of whatever, and it's possible. Like, you know what, like Africans are doing that. You don't have to be in this linear state, or you can have a podcast or a YouTube channel, or I don't know, start your foundation. And that still, it doesn't take away from you being a scientist, because also we've been ingrained to just be like, this is the only way you can science. And I also want to showcase that it doesn't have to be straight. You can do a lot of things and still be a scientist. So I mean, of course it's hard. It's not easy, but yeah, but it's possible. And that's also the beauty of it. Like, I've also been inspired, and I've been affirmed that the choice that I'm doing this work is actually okay, because I'm seeing people who are like starting their own companies. Shout out to Sandra and her team. They've started a biotech company. Like, what? Like, these are people who are my age. Like, that's what I'm saying. You don't only have to become a lecturer. You don't only, like, you can take your degrees and elevate yourself. It should be like a stepping stone, and that's possible. And that's another thing that's like what you're saying, especially for the Black child or the African child as a whole, that there's more. There's more to science. Hell, you can travel for free with conferences. You can get funding. There's money. You all you have to do is just do your PhD. There's money in this. So that's also what yeah, that's also another reason why I do what I do. So yeah, just showcasing all of them.
Do you feel that or do you think that any of your science skills that you learned, obviously, I mean, when you do a degree, any degree, there's certain skills that come with doing that degree, right? And obviously, as a scientist, there's a lot of skills that you get, be it critical thinking, be it being a little bit more analytical and whatever. do you feel there are certain skills that you took from your science that you apply to your podcast?
Yeah, like you said, the whole critical thinking and also just logical thought development. Like even with when you're conducting interviews, for example, I have to construct the interview in a manner that makes sense. Research. I have to do research about whoever I'm doing, and that comes from the fact that I do research. Similarly, with the podcast, there are also skills that I'm learning from the podcast, which I'm able to transfer now back to my research. You know, there's some soft skills that I'm learning. Like, I think now I can confidently say that when it comes to presenting or doing like talks now, I'm really not afraid because I'm like, okay, I know how to do this. You know, or networking. There's also a lot of networking which I'm able to do where I'm like, okay, if I need something in this area of help, or if I'm stuck, because also the PhD girl is hard. It's so hard, but I've managed to have such great friendships where I can go to people and who are ahead of me, who've walked this journey, this PhD journey, to be like, hey, yo, it's hard, and they're like, you know what, it's okay, it happens, you know, or how do I write a paper, you know, and I know somebody who literally writes a paper almost every other month, where I could go to them and be like, I'm stuck, you know, how do I go about, you know, going to a journal? So it's both ways. I've been able to transfer skills from here into this and transfer the skills or the lessons from the podcast into school. So it's a nice little marriage, which
Yeah.
I'm sort of doing.
Yeah, and I think, I mean, the reason why I was asking that question is because I just wanted to be clear that none of these things exist in silos. You get what I'm saying?
Mm,
They can all come together and work together in different ways.
mm,
You get what I mean? Because I remember I had a whole thing when I did an undergrad science degree, but then I
yeah,
was like, nah, I'm not going for the whole scientist thing. I'm not doing this research thing. You know, no. But I love the science. So now what? Then I did marketing. You should have seen the reaction, especially from my parents. It's like, wait, don't you first do an undergrad, then an honors, then a master's, then
mm,
where's this marketing coming from? You
yeah,
know, and now here I am speaking to you about science on a marketing platform. It's just like that is how these things work together, you know,
yeah,
that they don't exist in silos, they can come
mm,
together. And this is what I think is important for aspiring scientists to know, or anybody
mm,
who looks at science and is like, oh gosh, it's just research, or
yeah,
oh
yeah.
gosh, it's just, you know, maybe you can use your other passions, bring them together, and let's just do that.
I
And that's
firmly agree. Sorry, go
definitely.
ahead.
No, no, no. I was just going to say that's also the beautiful thing about this generation, that we are just very much bring it all. Let me put it together. You know, I think gone are the days of I'm going to do this for the next 50 years of my life. You
Mm,
know, it's like I'm going to do this with this and bring it together and see how it works.
mm,
And
mm.
obviously now with the podcast, you've been doing it for how long now?
Officially since March, was it end of March or April
Wow.
2020? So it's a long time, like a year and some change. Yeah.
And I've seen you've made some major milestones. I've been watching how many downloads you've been getting. It's becoming slowly becoming a very popular podcast, which is great stuff.
Yes.
And it was not easy, obviously, getting it started. So, what are some of the challenges that you experienced with it?
I think the first things first was that I didn't initially when I started podcasting, which was last year, March 2020, I didn't know other people, especially locally, who were doing it. You know, it was mostly, I mean, well, locally everybody was doing YouTube channels, and I was like, I don't want to be on like camera all the time. You know, like my thing is my voice. So there was that. I didn't know where to reach out to, but I started reaching out to Facebook groups and some really amazing people who I met on Twitter as well, joined some podcasting groups. So it was a little bit hard to then transfer what they're telling me because they are more in like, let's say, a US or Western ideology, the type of audience that they have. And at that point, like the podcast, Spotify was not available in some parts of African countries. And I was like, but I'm trying to be about Africa. So those are the sort of challenges. But I mean, now that people are getting more aware, Spotify is available in most of the other African countries. And I mean, Apple Podcasts, not a lot of people have iPhones, so that was hard. So I had to find a way of where to concentrate on my this thing, my podcast platform called Buzzsprout. So that's what I pushed. Secondly, it was this whole notion of like, oh my word, I don't have the correct equipment. I started panicking about that. But then I without any research again, because I didn't have people who were here local, the people overseas were busy telling me about microphones that were not available here. And it was like, so then I just went on Takealot and I was like, this one. And then I bought it and it didn't work. It was not compatible with my laptop. And then I had to leave it. And then I was like, you know what, screw it. Let me just use my earphones. Then I had to teach myself how to edit. That's literally the hardest part of this whole thing. Like, I enjoy talking to people, but editing on these softwares, I had to go on YouTube, teach myself how to do all of that. Another thing was that this is self-funded, so it costs money to have my podcast be on these platforms. So there's that. That I have to fund that for myself every month. Even some of the content that I use to advertise also costs money. So I mean, it's great, but the ideal would be if I had like some proper funding, that would be great. So what are the other challenges? And also just learning that one episode will be good and another one won't be good. Also learning how to talk to people, how to make people comfortable, how to make them talk, because there are times that people can be so rigid and the whole interview is a bit so I learned how to talk to people and to assure them and to be like, you know what, I've got you through this, I'll walk you through it. And that also came with time. So some of the other podcasts were not so great, the sound was not so great, but that's how you learn. And also just the mere fact that I was at one point doing 2 episodes a week. I don't even know how I was doing that, because that's so crazy. Now I can't.
Wasn't it?
Yeah. So, and then I had burnout. That was another challenge. Learning to take rest, learning to take care of myself, and acknowledging the fact that even if I don't post this week, the world will not burn. It's okay. Like if some life sort of happens sometimes. So those are sort of the things that I've had to learn and to grow, because I felt very like, I need to do this. And, so yeah, those are the challenges and the lessons that I've learned so far with this whole entire process.
Wow. Like you said so much in there that I feel like is so important. Firstly, the fact that you had to learn, you had to teach yourself so many different things, and now you have these skills that you can apply to whatever. Even if you decide one day you wake up, you're like, I'm not going to be a scientist, I'm going to be an editor for the rest of my life. You can go and do that. Now you can even maybe consult on other people and teach them how to do podcasts if you wanted to. But the most important thing you said, especially since we're still in October, is the fact that you thought of your mental health and you're just like, I need to be kind to self.
Yeah.
Yeah. And how difficult was it for you when you had to move from 2 podcasts to 1, when you initially put it out there that Mondays and Thursdays?
Oh man. So initially, I was like, Mondays and Thursdays, we've got this. And also, okay, well, I have to mention at that point, I hadn't started my PhD. So that was also another thing. Then the PhD started to come in, and then I realized I just don't have time. I can't, it takes a lot of time. So it wasn't easy. Then I made that decision, and I was scared people are not gonna listen, because I thought the more content I produce, the more amount of downloads. That was another thing that I needed to sort of let go, like the number thing, the stats thing. That was, I think, also a big crutch. Like, I think, be it we have that thing with numbers or likes or whatever. So that was a thing that I had to be like, you know what, this is a slow burn. I have to say that I had some really great support with some friends and, you know, some people really close to me who really helped me understand that, you know, this is a slow burn. Like, success doesn't happen like this. That's another thing, you know. So I had to let that go. Like, it's not going to happen instantaneously. It's more about consistency. And then when I released only 1 week, people were still listening, and I was like, oh, okay, that's still happening. And and then and I was actually supported by that. People are like, oh no, Anne, thank you so much. And then I had another friend who does, I think you actually interviewed her, Adama, who does The Catalyst in Me. We had
Yes.
a conversation, and she told me, and she's like, Anne, you know, the one freeing thing that you can, oh, she's actually just joined. She, yeah, hey, Adama. Yeah, so it's actually weird. So she was telling me that, you know, there's sometimes that it's okay if you produce if you put in like 10 episodes this in 1 week and you don't do anything for a month. You know, you can sort of recycle those type of things, and it's okay. So, you know, it was sort of like that with somebody who's doing this in a different form, the science com in a different form, was like, it's actually okay for you to take a break and for you to be like, okay, you know what, it's fine, the world will not burn. Like, and that was like one of those things that I was like, okay, like, whoa, like, it was really affirming, like talking through people. So just the mere fact that I've been able to consult with other people who've done this, who are doing this, and I come back, like, even I think September, some personal things were happening and I just had to just off grid. So and without any explanation. Also, that's another thing that I learned, that I don't have to explain myself all the time. Like, if I'm not okay, I don't have to tell the whole world, like, oh no, guys, stop. So I had to stop in September because I was going through some of my own personal things, and then just to sort of come back. And this is, I think, my first proper coming back thing. And just after I've taken care of myself. So it's very important because this thing takes a lot out of you. Creating content doesn't just fall from the sky. It takes a lot from you. And also you have life going on, you have academia going on, you have your job going on. It's a lot. So yeah, it's really, really important. And also, like I said, I have some really great people who just affirm that it's okay to be still and to say no to things. And yeah, because I think we are in this rat race where we think we have to continuously keep on doing things, but it's okay to stop. And even more so, like you said, in October, Mental Health Month, it's, oh yeah, it's okay to breathe.
100%. I totally agree with you, you know, and it's so beautiful that you do that. And you know, when you speak of numbers, you know why you started the podcast. You know, like you
Exactly.
said, it's to give that visibility that is much needed, right, to the ones who are considering going to sign one day. Does it really matter if it's one person who's now convinced or 20,000 people? You know, it's like, who are you doing it for? I mean, even if literally had 10,000, that means there's 10 people out there who've heard the message or and who are, you know, receiving what you're putting out. That should be enough. Eventually, one day, in a year, in 10 years, who knows? It'll be millions of people, and then you can be like, okay, got it. You know,
Yeah.
but it's okay to be kind to self. Before obviously we wrap up, because yeah, time, I don't
Time.
know, but
Oh, so much fun.
but before we close off, what's the one piece of advice you would give to maybe a fellow scientist who are considering going into science communication using a podcast? Maybe what advice would you give them?
I would say, first of all, do it. Don't overthink it, because I think we overthink things we need to have everything set out. But I think do it. Start small, because when you start small, you're able to make mistakes which are not going to cost you financially, number one. So if you start with a free podcast platform, like there's Anchor, or even Buzzsprout has a free podcast platform where you can upload, I think, about 2 hours in a month. So start off, just start small, start doing something. Maybe instead of doing an hour show, do a 15-minute show. See how you work through it. Number two, YouTube is your best friend. You can literally learn everything, even how to do your voice and changing and editing. You know, that's another thing. Number three, ask for help. Like, if there's anything that I can say, just ask for help. DM people who you admire, even the people who are international or local or whatever. Just send them a message. The worst that they will say is no, but in most cases they'll be more than happy to help you. And in another more important case, they'll be able to say not now and refer you to somebody else who can actually help you. So yeah, start, don't complicate things, and don't worry about the equipment so much. Oh my gosh, like, you can do it with your get what you call those earphones with, like, as long as it has a speaker thing, have good internet, don't move too much, put pillows on the floor, blankets. Like, it's really just find, there's all these hacks of how you can control the sound. Just start. I think that's really the most important thing. Just start where you are, and everything else will fall into place. And also, it's gonna get hard, and you're gonna want to quit, and you're gonna not want to post that episode, but just do it anyway. On those days, especially, that's when you have to post that episode, because I will tell you now, there are most days where I'm like, it's Sunday, I have to start posting things, and I don't always wake up like I want to do this every single day, but those are the things that you just have to sort of stack up. And if this is what you really love, you're gonna do it irregardless of those tough days. And yeah, so I think that it's a very long-winded advice, but that's what I can say.
It's great advice. It's great advice. That's for sure. That's for sure. And I really think that when you remember your why, that is what keeps you going, and be like,
Mm,
okay, I don't feel like editing and posting today. It's Sunday. I just want to sleep in. But then you remember, why am I doing this? And you're just like, hey, no, no, no. Then I have to get up and post. And I think that's why your why, because your why is so deep, and
yeah,
so personal to you. It's not just, I want to make so much money. It's very personal, and it's about, I want to make an actual impact. That's probably why it's just like, nah, I just gotta push through. Just gotta push through.
yeah.
Oh my gosh. And
Uh,
I really wish we had more time. I really do. Like, I'm really
enjoyed it.
enjoying the conversation with you, and talking about your platform. And for everybody who's watching, thank you so much for watching. Make sure, if you're not
Yeah,
already following Anne, at the root
you guys,
of
few more.
the Science Podcast. There you go. So just as you follow her, you're available on, that's actually Facebook, Twitter, and also Instagram, isn't it?
Yes, all those platforms. I'm there mainly on Twitter and here and Facebook. Yeah, mainly, yeah, but I'm more active on this one than my personal Instagram. So yeah, this was really nice. And thank you to everybody else who was here. I see Kalande, I see Mishimo, I saw Natasha, so is Zakiti. I don't know who's still here,
If
but
any questions for you, let me just check. They were mostly
okay.
comments.
Comments.
But I'm sure you saw them as they were coming in. I saw you reading them. So,
Yeah.
yeah, there were no questions, but definitely comments and things.
No,
Yeah.
thank you so much. This was fun.
Thank you so much, Anne. This was really great. Hopefully we can bring you on again and have another conversation soon. And one last question. What do you think
Okay.
when, for example, I know there's another podcast coming up soon. It's called what? Let's Talk Science, a
Okay.
podcast by Tulile Kanyile, and she's also one of the scientists. So when you
Okay.
think of, when you see there's another podcast coming up, do you get like a little bit like, or do you just like, nah?
I get so excited. I get so excited because I'm like, yes, you know, I don't want to say this in a cocky way, but I can't interview all of the Africans here. And also, it's really nice because I get to see other people who I don't know. So the table is so big. Like, I'm ready to move, come through. Like, there was another lady who I also met on Twitter. Like, the table is big. Like, everybody, like, if everybody can come in and do a podcast, that would be amazing. So I love it. It gets me so excited because I'm like, yes, there's more people who are seeing that this platform is is accessible. Like, come through, let's have these conversations. Let's push these African scientists out there. And also another thing is, like, just to wrap up what you said about the why. For me, my why, like you said, it's way bigger than this podcast. The vision is it's to exceed. It's not about Anne and the root of the science. It's the root of the science. So even if I'm not here, I would want that to still continue. So it's not about me. It's not about being the face. I'm just merely the medium who gets to amplify these voices. So if somebody else is coming in, oh, no. I am excited, and I don't know. I need to check her out. I want to, like, already be like, because I just know about that podcast. So it really gets me excited.
Definitely send you her profile. Maybe you can actually bring her onto your platform as well. I've interviewed her before, and we had a conversation where we talk about science and entrepreneurship. So she views us as a social entrepreneur and a scientist, but I'll send you her profile. I think she'll be a
Oh,
great
please.
person to interview. I know she's currently working on HIV research and stuff like that, but I really think it would be an amazing person to chat to. She's always keen. So yeah, why not?
Yeah, definitely. Oh, look at that. More connections. See, this is why I love these conversations.
Very nice. Okay, let's end this here.
Yeah.
Thank you so much to you for coming, and thank you so much for everybody for watching, and have a great evening.
Bye, everyone. Thank you.